Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be a very incredible video as we take a look at Moza's force feedback flight system, and all I can say is to other developers, guys better watch out. Moza's coming. If you are interested in any of my tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides as well as any future guides that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below. Okay, pilot, so starting right out, I want to make sure very clear that this has not yet been released, and therefore I do not have a firm price point, so I will not be mentioning the price of it, but I will say that you guys should be very, very excited for this product. It is amazing. So, I don't normally do unboxings. There's just something really fun about unwrapping the Moza stuff. I don't know what it is. I enjoy it. There are certain companies that I like to do it and certain companies I don't. Nobody has ever done a bad boxing for me. Like, I've never had anything show up beating to crap or rattling around or anything like that. It's just, there's something fun about it. And plus, Moza managed to stump me because apparently I'm an idiot and didn't think, hey, let's not be smarter than the objects that we're working with here. And you'll see what I mean right now. There it is. Yep, I'm an idiot. So, let's start talking about the yoke. So, first off, it's a two-piece construction system. It uses a quick clamp release. They are all aluminum. All of the buttons have an incredible tactile feel. The grip is extremely comfortable, has a very nice feel to it, and yet it's very, very light because it's a full aluminum construction. You guys can see here, they are mirrored on both left and right side. You have autopilot functionality right in the middle. All of these buttons are programmable. There's also two axis bound triggers in the front of it that you guys will see here in just a second. There's that quick release clamping mechanism, allows you to disconnect, and I imagine that's for expansion of future yokes. There's the triggers I was talking about. You also have the two bumpers up top. And we'll get into more of the programs later, or programmable options later. But it is, from the moment I pulled this thing out of the box, I was blown away. It feels incredible. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about the unboxing of the base, which is a beast and yet smaller than its competitors. All right, so getting into the base, unfortunately, I had to take it out of the box first, set it back on the desk as the box was too big. You guys can already see it's already taken over the camera space. I'm not sure what I did with the camera position there. Don't mind the black spot on the left side there. Apparently, like I said, idiot alert. My bad. But anyways, let's get into the good stuff. So first off, let's talk about some dimensions while you guys watch the unwrapping. This thing is 15 inches long and 9 inches wide. Now, that's still big, like I said, but that's actually 2 inches in both directions smaller than one of its competitors that has also been reviewed on this channel, so keep that in mind. Okay, so right out of the gate when it comes to the base, this thing is heavy and yet not, if that makes any sense whatsoever. It has a ton of weight to it in the aspect that it is very solid. There's nothing, you don't feel like you're holding anything too light or cheap. It is definitely have the weight in it, but it's not unmanageable. Okay, it's not something that you have to worry that you could pick up or move around easily. It's still very easy to move around while maintaining a very solid feel. I really hope that makes sense. That's really hard to relay. But the overall construction, once again, full aluminum construction, just like with the yoke. An absolutely gorgeous presentation that they did with this particular unit. I was really blown away with it. It is very, very nice. And you guys can see the difference between this one here is that it has switches in the front of it, which I was super excited for from the moment I heard that this was coming. I've been telling you guys for a couple weeks that I had some really exciting things heading our way, and this is one of them. And I do say one of them. but it blew me away. Okay, and I just don't know how to get past that. So they use high resolution 15-bit Hall magnetic sensors, and we will again see in the flight test later on that you guys will get to watch and see it in action. The features available within the software as well as within the unit itself are absolutely phenomenal. Has a very smooth action of travel. There's no jittering, there's no stuttering, there's no cogging effect that you could feel inside the sim unless you intentionally wanted that, and we'll talk about that as we get into the software portion of this. I'm stunned by how great this thing really is, and I know that makes you sound like a broken record or fanboy, whatever you want to call it, but I was really blown away by this, you guys. There was a lot of thought process that was clearly put into the development of this unit. The flap switch is probably one of my favorite. It feels absolutely amazing using it. I don't know why. The gear handle got a 3-position switch, so that's going to be great for you Boeing flyers like myself who have the 3-position gear handles. You have the gear up as well as the lock position. You'll be able to map that as well. And you can see once we take that film off, this is probably the best part of unwrapping any electronic. You could tell that my eyesight was clearly blocked because I did not realize that I was going to pull that off when I yanked on that, but all is well. It just slides right back on, so that wasn't anything to be concerned about either. Really, really well done, you guys. Very thought out. I would like to have seen a few more switches instead of the systems on the right, but I see what they're doing there. They're looking more for like things, the autopilot and things like that. So I see. Now we're getting into the mounting system. You can see how slick this really is. Absolutely phenomenal idea. I love the way they did this. Simply pop that lever back, opens up the clamp, slides right on, smooth as glass. Like I didn't even realize it was where it needed to be. I finally just decided to let go of the switch and boom, there we were. And the action is awesome. Now you can see we can actuate it here while it's on the desk, but the problem is that the software isn't running and it's not turned on, so keep that in mind. But very, very slick. Look how gorgeous this thing is. It feels amazing. The action is so smooth. And again, this is obviously without the software turned on, but that's actually one of the better ways, in my opinion, to sort of feel what the mechanical structure of it is inside. Just absolutely perfect. I was blown away by this. And this is why I say other developers, you better watch out, because man, Moza is coming with some fire. Now to mount it, I told you guys that I would show you some really cool clamps I got. You can pick these up on Amazon for like $4 or $5, guys. They are really cheap. There's not much to them. But they're nice. They're pretty-ish for clamps, as pretty as a clamp can be. But these are really, really slick if you want an option where you can easily disconnect it and move it around. They're a small form factor. They don't get in the way of your legs, at least mine. And this is just mounting it to the desk. It's the easiest solution as I'm testing products for the first time. Now, the thing you got to worry about, on the right-hand side, it's perfectly fine because you're going to be turning it counterclockwise in comparison to our angle that we're looking down at, which means that the torque is going to be going towards the unit. Now, on the left side, you're going to want to make sure that you hold it with your finger up against the unit. Otherwise, it's going to want to torque its way out to the left. You could have some slippage. But now I will tell you this as well, that in most situations, and I did test this initially just to see what would happen, but I didn't want to showcase like that because it can move. It didn't move with just a single clamp on. But if you're going to buy them, again, I recommend 2 of them. All right, so now the fun time. We've got it all plugged in, so now it's time to get this thing up and powered on. So, let's use the magic finger and push the magic button. Any day now. Come on, Mike. Mike, just push the button. Just push the button, Mike. They just want to watch it. Push the button. And power on. It'll go through a quick calibration test, testing all axes. It does take a few seconds, and there is a little bit of a shock, so I want to make sure that you guys see this, because there's one that did scare the crap out of me. That one. I was not ready for it to do that when it did that to me earlier, so do be ready for that if you decide to pick this thing up. But from here, it was phenomenal. You could already feel the tension, and all this was on power on. Okay, we haven't done anything else with it yet. This was simply just turning it on, and it was incredible. I mean, the thing just immediately felt awesome. So now let's go ahead and get into the software, because that's where things get pretty cool too. From the software side, once again, they took a lot of time and thought to make sure that they could deliver a customizable experience that truly enhanced your capabilities in the flight simulation world of force feedback. And you guys are going to see what I mean here in just a second. It's actually quite impressive, all the things that you have. So you have a couple of different options when it comes to what type of force feedback does it deliver. Does it deliver integrated or telemetry force feedback? Now, integrated, or excuse me, direct, telemetry, or integrated. Integrated is a combination of direct and telemetry. And you guys are going to see that that's essentially what we're going to be using here in the simulator. But you have a ton of different settings that you can go through. I'm not going to go through obviously all of those. That would be a video all in itself. But one of the really cool things is that you can highlight over any one of these exclamation points and it tells you exactly what the particular setting does and how to manipulate it for your benefit. So they really did a fantastic job. And it's a well thought out process. Also, not necessarily showing it here, but directly from the home page, selecting on the device, you can do an automatic calibration of both the cogging effect that is intentional, okay, so a desired cogging effect, as well as the axis themselves. So everything is done automatically. You don't have to worry about, you know, going through the Windows calibration or anything like that. You hit the calibrate button on here and bam, you're good to go. I was really, really impressed at how easily this works. So you have also a general settings for aircraft, then you have propeller, you have jet, and you have rotor, so helicopter. Each one has its own fine-tuning options, and then there's, you can see, as we're currently under the general options. Now, for the most part, I'm going to leave everything default here because I want to see what the experience is out of the box. Also, for games or simulators that don't necessarily support force feedback, you have a trim option here, which is a hardware trim, which allows you to essentially select a trim and it will forcibly move the yoke to that particular position rather than using the trim inside the simulator. So what that means is that as you trim back, you will actually see the yoke come back. Okay, now because I have the telemetry and integrated, I tried to test it here, but it didn't dawn on me that because I had the integrated configuration set up, this wasn't going to have a response because Microsoft Flight Simulator is delivering telemetry. Okay, now for the main event, the flight test. This, I was pretty blown away with this right from the get-go. So first off, just with the engine at idle, you're already getting a slight vibration just as you would in the real aircraft. So you get a real nice feeling. Wow, look at that throttle. I mean, that looks really comfortable. Huh. Anyway, the vibration as we increase the power obviously increased, as did the torque that I was starting to feel against the yoke as we were increasing airspeed. The other thing that got really, really cool is as the aircraft reached takeoff speed, you started to feel a lot of the weight come off of the yoke, meaning that you could tell the aircraft wanted to fly. So this was a very, very good experience. Now, you guys probably, if you've been watching my channel, you know who the big force feedback yoke competitor currently is, but I'm not going to say any names because I'm not trying to call anyone out at all. They are both in this region as in I felt the same experiences from just about both of them. There are a couple spots here where we're gonna talk about that. In my opinion, Moza sort of takes the cake on this one. The overall action inside of the simulator and what I was feeling in comparison to the yoke, I felt was much more natural with the Moza than with its competitor. Again, do your own research. The software was very, very well laid out, in my opinion, for this, and made it really easy to adjust things right on the fly. But that's really true with both of them. They're just different layouts. So I know I'm starting to steer this into a comparison. I'm really not trying to, but I do want you guys to understand that there is a comparison that's being made here and that this isn't first time experience. So with that being said, sticking back to just Moza for a minute, the overall experience, and also I want to point out that with the default Cessna 172 in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, which is where we are, the flight dynamics aren't all that much to write home about in the aspect of the flight model itself. So with that being said, I think I would have preferred, looking back on it now, I think I'll go back and you guys will see a follow-up video where we try something like the Duke or something like that, something that's a bit more advanced and offers a bit more feedback. Now you can see here we were on telemetry feedback and now we switched to integrated. By going to integrated, all of the inputs and the force that came out of the Yoke were increased dramatically. The overall experience was a significantly more intense experience, and as you can see here, integrated does both direct and telemetry force feedback at the same time. So you're getting a number of different inputs, some from the software, some from the simulator, depending on what's missing and what's not. At the point that I did this, and this is the way I personally recommend it because the experience was significantly different. Both were good. The telemetry force feedback was amazing, and also keep in mind that we're running default settings. I didn't change anything. Okay, so as we're running the default settings, later on, the only thing we will change something here later on, but for right now, we're flying with the default settings. There was enough shake and twitching in the Yoke that it made it feel very natural, but it wasn't over the top to the point where it felt like, you know, it was taking you out of that immersion. And that is the danger with force feedback. But the nice thing is that with any of the force feedback options that are currently on the market today, you can adjust that in the simulator to bring it back down to where it doesn't take it away from you. Where in this particular scenario, as you can see here, I'm turning a few things up here. We're turning the inertial response up, and we're turning the game force feedback gain up. Now, as I turned the gain up, it didn't take me long to immediately want to bring the gain back down, if I remember correctly. Oh, maybe I didn't. We also tried the dynamic force feedback. I'm not 100% sure what this does yet. I didn't have any documentation on that. This is just me just testing and playing around with crap. I didn't really notice any change inside of the Yoke at this point, and so maybe this is a feature that is yet to be developed. I'm unsure. Again, I didn't have any documentation to support what that particular feature was for. All right, now finally here, what you guys are about to see is we're coming out of a stall test, okay? Unfortunately, for whatever reason, OBS during this particular portion, it got corrupt, and I didn't know that until afterwards, and I had put everything back in the box temporarily until I have the next pit set up. But discussing that for a minute, the stall was really, really cool. You can adjust the stall buffet setting. Now, for those of you who don't know what the buffet is, it's a sort of shake, if you will, right before the aircraft is about to stall. Some buffets on certain aircraft are more significant than others, and you know, you'll feel things a bit differently. As someone who has actually been in a Cessna 172 at the time of a buffet, it gets a shite. Sorry for those of you who know what that is. I didn't mean to say that. Slight is what I meant to say. It gets a slight, like I said, it's an increased vibration, sort of a shake almost, but not quite. Anyway, it's a very distinct feeling that you feel in the aircraft and on the airframe right before you stall. The buffet, I did turn that up a little bit. I think it was started at 10%. I turned it up to about 25%, and that dramatically increased the overall experience. But it was, again, it wasn't an immersion breaker. It shouldn't be ridiculous. It's not going to shake your hands loose. It's just something that you can feel in the aircraft, and it lets you know, hey, a stall is coming. Okay, and I was able to tweak that in just a way. I did about 3 stalls. They were power off, flaps down stalls, and they were awesome. It was a really, really cool experience. It was really fun. So now we're going to come in for the approach. As I'm on the way through the approach, one of the really neat things that they did here, and I could feel every ounce of it, is that with the Tucson is in a bowl. As you guys can see, there are mountains literally on all sides of Tucson. And the mountains that are behind us right now are one of the most problematic when you're coming in on approach for runway 12, which is what we're about to line up for, previously known as 11 left. And as we come in for the approach, I was fighting the weather, and I could feel the tail or the headwind beating the crap out of it. I could feel the turbulence coming off of the mountainside and the thermals, but it was very, very easy to predict what to do next because I had that feeling of motion. The next time you guys see this, I want to give you guys the heads up. We're going to be in a full motion simulator. We're going to be in the DOF Reality H3. We're going to have the force feedback yoke. We're going to have a haptic feedback throttle, the first of its kind that I'm aware of. And we'll be in a virtual reality. So in my opinion, we're going to be in the ultimate immersive experience. The only thing now is we need some force feedback, rudder pedals, and I think that we will be on point. It's going to be amazing. So Anyways, as we're coming to the approach, I found that this was one of the better approaches that I've had in a while because everything was very, very easy to feel, whether it be trimming for my approach. And you guys will see that I'm high. I'm always on the high end of the approach. I have what's called a space shuttle approach. My dad had it too when he was actually really flying in the real world. I always have that 5-degree approach. I don't know what's wrong with me. You know, it's probably hitting the head or something with a soccer ball too many times growing up, or, you know, something bad happened, ate paint chips, something. Anyway. It was one of the coolest experiences that I've had in the sim in quite a while. From the feeling of the grip, from the feeling of the base, to the haptic and force feedback, and I do want to specify both the haptic and force feedback responses I was getting from the Yoke. You can see my motions are much more intentional. They're much more correcting, and it's because I could feel what was happening. And that is the advantage. If anyone's wondering, that's really what it all comes back down to when it comes to force feedback. If you're one of those people who says, why force feedback? Because once you get it tuned, and this is just default out of the box, I've got a lot of tuning myself that I need to do. But once you get it tuned and set in a nice way that makes sense to you and that you can feel what's happening, that's, again, back to that word feel. You can feel it. You can feel what the aircraft is doing. You can feel what the ailerons are doing. You can feel what the elevator is doing. You can feel what the nose is wanting to do based on your power setting. You can feel what it does when your power setting increases, right? It's just an overall really intense experience once you start to get it dialed in. Now, I didn't fly in VR today, but like I said, the next time you guys see me in this thing, we will be in virtual reality to really wrap up that experience and really close things down. But this was one of the best approaches that I've had in quite a while. And again, it was because every single step of the way, I could feel what was happening. Now, just to speak on that competitor again, you guys, just for a minute, you know who they are. If you know, you know. You'll know when I make the video. They have also put out a really big update to their software, so we'll be reviewing that as well to keep things fair. But this Moza system, by far, in my opinion, right now, takes the cake from the ease of the software, the configuration options, the friendly user interface, the customization options from the base and on the Yoke, the number of controls, the fact that the Yoke itself can be removed very, very easily, the smaller form factor. Yes, it's only 2 inches in both directions, but 2 inches can go a long way. So all of this stuff starts to add up to the point where at the moment, I think Moza takes the cake. And again, this isn't to take anybody out or put anybody down in any way, shape, or form. It just, that's why I said at the beginning of the video to other developers, and it doesn't matter who you are. At this point, when it comes to flight simulation, developers, you better watch out because Moza's coming for your name. They're really making a name for themselves in this last year, and obviously moving into 2025 is going to be no different. And this model clearly is an indicative sign of that. So to Moza, well done on an absolutely phenomenal product. You guys, they are absolutely turning heads, taking names, and coming after the market. So great job to Moza. I look forward to seeing what they come up with next. As always, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, found it useful. I'm super excited, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay safe and healthy.